Hello, my name is Xavier Cholet. I manage the Eco Discovery portfolio for Japanese investor. I would like today to tell you a bit more about the outlook for the energy transition. It's a very interesting moment in time today because the three big growth drivers that we have for the energy transitions are very different today, a lot better than what they were 5 years ago, for example. On one hand, you have sustainability, which is really the sense of urgency to fight climate change, which is very different today compared to 5 or 10 years ago. We really have an alignment between the governments globally, the scientific community, the public opinion, and the young generation. Everyone really is fighting harder and harder for climate change. And then we have also another one, which is affordability. It's really the economic sense. It's the fact that today, renewable electricity, so really wind and solar, has become the cheapest source of electricity production in 90% of the world. It's completely different compared to 5 or 10 years ago when we needed subsidies, really. This is very important because as it makes economic sense and results in lower electricity bills for consumers, this is a transition that is unstoppable. It doesn't matter what's the government in power or if the economy is strong or weak. And then we have a third very important growth driver, which is energy security, especially after the war in Ukraine and the current energy crisis in Europe. If you think about Europe, there are two main issues. The first one is high energy prices for families like mine, for example. High natural gas prices, coal, electricity prices, high oil prices at the pump for our cars. This is an issue, but the other issue is that potentially this winter or next winter, we might not have enough natural gas. So for all the families that use natural gas to heat their homes or have a hot shower in the morning, they might have a big issue. And this incentivizes people to accelerate even more the move to heat pumps in buildings or solar and storage in order to reduce their electricity bill. And then for governments, it's even more important because this brings something completely new, which is a sense of urgency to solve the situation as fast as possible. It's a matter of national security. It doesn't matter if there is a recession or a strong economy. The European government, in particular, doesn't want to depend on foreign economies anymore for its energy, importing oil, natural gas, or coal. So it's doing everything it can to accelerate even more the transition to wind and solar electricity, to double the heat pump installations in buildings instead of oil and gas furnaces, and then to accelerate also the penetration of electric mobility. Another thing I would like to tell you, if you think about the long term, I think what's really important is not to have a strong opinion in terms of, when exactly are we going to be net zero carbon? Is it going to be in 2050 or 2060? I think what is really important is to understand the direction of travel, where we are going, because this will imply huge transformations of a few industries, the transport industry, the energy sector, and this is going to imply big winners, big losers, and really very important investment opportunities for us. Two main things to know here. One, we're going to have a broad electrification of our economy, which means that in our buildings, it's going to be about heat pumps instead of oil and gas furnaces. And in transport, it's all going to be about electric cars instead of gasoline and diesel vehicles. And then, number two, all this additional electricity that we will need will come predominantly from renewables, actually about 85% renewables by 2050. But the only two winners here are really wind and solar electricity, which represents today 10% of global electricity production and will go to 70% by 2050. So all the other sources of energy will actually decline in the energy mix: natural gas, nuclear, coal, electricity. And so lastly, really since a few years now, we have very important inflection points in renewables, in electric mobility, in green infrastructure, electrical networks. And this really brings, for people invested in the energy transition, a lot of secular growth, because the revenue growth of these companies really are coming from these transitions and not from, the growth of the global economy or new car sales or industrial activity. So this is very exciting.